What's going on, my kings and queens? We're back today for another Borderlands video. Today we got the build crafts going on. I've been meaning to show y'all this build for a while. I've been wanting to get this out to y'all. This is my version of Rafa that I'm going to be playing as in game for my first playthrough on Borderlands 4. Oh, and it's coming out soon. We got like 2 weeks, y'all. So I'm pretty excited to show y'all this. I'm gonna get another video up for y'all later on as quickly as I can. But this is gonna be a Rafa build that's basically based off of a lot of grenades and his melee and doing a lot of corrosive and fire damage. So without further ado, this is my Corrosive Hellfire Blitz Rafa build. As y'all know, every Vault Hunter has a passive. So Rafa's passive is Overdrive. So whenever Rafa activates an action skill, he enters overdrive. While an action skill is active, overdrive's duration does not decrease. So whenever I have an action skill activated, my overdrive will constantly stay at max duration until my action skill is done. While overdrive is active, gain increased movement speed and the increased damage with all sources. You get a 10% damage buff and a 25% movement speed for 12 seconds, or the whole time you have your action skill up. So basically the thing is with Rafa, we're gonna try and lean more into the melee, corrosive, and grenade stuff to get this build working. So, as you know, we chose the arc knives. Rafa puts down his guns to basically go into a third-person view and gets these two dual blades that deal melee damage and mark enemies. Whenever they deal damage to them, they cause them to take increased damage for every mark. So whenever you do a melee attack to them, it makes a mark. It puts a mark on the enemy. Get increased damage, and it goes up to 4 times. So perform melee attacks with Rafa's arc knives, you know about that. Dash forward and perform a shock melee attack, which is what y'all saw them doing with the dash, and then they cut with both blades to do that shock damage. And then you can also unleash Rafa's Blade Fury, which deals shock damage to all marked enemies and then ends the skill, which is actually pretty nuts if you think about it. This skill actually has a great duration and a pretty nice cooldown. It's a good give or take for this one. You get max marks 4 per enemy, always great. Your mark bonus, you get +6 damage per mark. So you basically get what? 24% increased damage, right? Cool. Before I get into the capstones, I'm gonna go over the passive skills first. We're gonna start off with 5 in Handshake Deal, which increases gun damage and melee damage, but your melee damage will go up to a total of 35% with all 5 in there. And that's not even including if we can get class mods with this stuff. Handshake Deal, extra melee damage. Then we're gonna go over to, I wouldn't say get Midnight Oil yet. Like when you're like level 10 and stuff, I say get it like when you're like level 15 is the route I'm going. This is not gonna be my like second one I go to. Max that out, get plus 10% corrosive damage every second. And that's always a good plus. That's great, that's fantastic. Then we're gonna go down to Dial In, which is one of Rafa's greater passives. If we can get a class mod for this, which allows the crit to kick off more, I'll be ecstatic about it. Whenever Rafa damages an enemy with a melee attack, his melee attacks gain crit hit chance. This chance stacks and all stacks are removed whenever Rafa critical hits an enemy. So on max stacks with 5, it goes up to 15% per stack, right? If you get like another, I say 6%, 21% would be like great. It'd be great because that'd be basically you'd be getting a crit like every 3rd hit, which is always nice. And then we're gonna go into our first augment, which is Altered or Capstone. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, I apologize. Whenever Rafa kills an enemy while Arc Knives is active, restore a portion of his maximum health capacity. Whenever Rafa gains health, deal bonus corrosive damage with all attacks and gain increased movement speed. This effect stacks. So let's say, for instance, you just get health all the time, right? You're gonna be getting those 25 stacks easy, and that's gonna put you at 300% corrosive damage and then 250% movement speed. And whenever you're killing stuff, you're healing. So it's kind of like a good give or take type of thing. And it has a 16% duration. It has a 16-second duration. I said percent. It's a 16-second duration, which is pretty good. I hope that's like per stack, which it probably is. But that's one of the main things that's going to be going with this tree is this. This is going to be the build. This is what the build is built around. So we are, as you see, we already got it over here. And then we're gonna drop down. We're just gonna put 1 in the Soldaire right now. For right now, it's just to have a little bit of survivability in the beginning of the game. But since this is like, we'll have something better, and there's multiple things that we can use to heal ourselves in this game. Rep kits, you have picking up the health packs from killing enemies, certain skills that will heal you for other things. Like there's a whole bunch of other things that you can really use. That's why I only put 1 into this for right now. So next tree, we're gonna go all the way down to this right tree. So this right tree is basically the tree set for Corrosive and keeping his action skill up for a long period of time. So what we're gonna see is a lot of action skill duration. So the first skill I'd say invest in is Empuje. Rafa gains increased action skill duration. It goes up to a total of 35%. If we can get something that increases that, that'd be cool, but I wouldn't bet on it too hard, especially when I'm gonna be trying to get that crit melee thing going. You get 35% action skill duration, which brings your action, I've already done the math, I think it's like around like 42 seconds, which is a good trade-off when the cooldown's only 48. So basically it's a 5-second difference. So that would be great, fantastic. And then next thing, El Borracho. Rafa deals increased corrosive damage while his action skill is active. The longer it's been active, the greater the bonus. The only reason I put it at 4 for right now is because we don't know what class mods are going to change what action skills, in my opinion. And there's certain things I only need 1 for this build for. So we're only going to put 4 in there. It's not going to be, it only goes up to 5%. So right now it's at 4%, which is good anyway. And then I put 1 into sustainable energy. Rafa gains health regeneration based on how much overdrive time is remaining. So depending on how health and stuff works, the more damage Rafa takes, I wonder how they're gonna do this. I really wonder how they're gonna do this, because if he gets the proc for Altered Corone, which is whenever he gains health, so whenever he heals in general. So my brain is telling me that this is gonna automatically proc this 24/7. I don't know if it's gonna proc when it's at full health though. That's the only thing I'm gonna have to see and test about this build. I don't know if this will proc this at full health. But other than that, I'm planning on this, even though it's 0.8 max health per second, he's still healing. And whenever he gets any type of health, Altered Corone should like proc off. So that's what I'm hoping on for this one. And then we're gonna drop down to here. Rafa gains increased skill damage with all skills. The longer his action skill has been active, the greater the bonus. So basically, the longer he has it up, we all know Rafa's gonna be like the dude that's like, hey, as long as my shit is up, I'm going to be able to be stronger than everybody here. Which is why I see a lot of people use Dead Man Walking, but I feel like you're not getting the damage out of it. You're not getting the movement speed. You're not getting the Rafa feel by using that. I mean, I get it. He's a dead man walking. But I mean, hey, he's your own. He's your own. I'm not even gonna get into it. He's your own. That's the point of the game. Everybody can play how they want. And let's do that. I just really can't wait to see how people's builds and stuff and see how they work. So this is a must, and it increases it to 10%. So this plus Midnight Oil plus El Borracho is just going to be a monster. So that's what? A total of 10, 5. So it's basically 25% just damage is constantly boosting itself up over time. It's fantastic. And then after we're done with that, we're gonna grab Galvanic Panic, which is gonna be our capstone. This is gonna be the bread and butter of this build. Between Altered Corone and Galvanic Panic, these are the 2 things that are gonna really make this build. I mean, they have to. They have to. This is the capstone and the augment. So basically, whenever Rafa performs a melee attack while Arcanizes active, fire an acid storm glider at the enemy in his views, which is basically like, I wouldn't say it's like a missile or anything, but it's more like a slash wave or a splash wave. No one's seen it. No one's really seen the projectile, so we really don't know. But as long as it does splash damage, which is what it says, acid storm gliders deal corrosive splash damage based on the number of total marked enemies. Additionally, killing an enemy while Arcanized is active restores action skill duration. So this will, as long as we're killing and as long as we're like causing all this mayhem, we'll be getting damage out the ying and our action. Okay. Rewind. So basically, we'll be able to keep our action skill active 24/7 as long as we're killing enemies, which is fantastic. And whenever you activate Blade Fury, it causes Rafa to fire a volley of acid storm gliders in front of him, which is why I'm hoping it slashes, because the way Amon slashes look from his whip is what I'm thinking the storm glider is gonna look like for Rafa. So let's hope have two little beam dudes out there just clapping people from afar, which would be awesome. But it still ends Arc Knife, so that wouldn't be ideal. Acid Storm Glider damage is 46. Acid Storm Glider bonus damage is plus 8% per marked enemy, which is what we're not gonna worry about, the plus 8% per marked enemy. I mean, it's a good little side thing to have. What we really want from this is every melee attack that we do to do at corrosive splash damage. Because you'll see it later, watch. You'll see, watch. It's gonna be amazing. And I'm like super hyped for it. So the next thing we're gonna go into is Collaborate. Overdrive skill. Rafa deals bonus damage of his weapon's element with all skills and ordinances while Overdrive is active. And since Overdrive is always constantly active while our action skill is up, we will basically have this for infinity if it doesn't have any diminishing returns. But with this, we're just getting a big buff to our weapons damage, from our knives to the splash damage of the acid storm gliders to our grenades. So it's great. It's great, and it's all based off of, like, I think the weapon that I have, which is probably the arc knives, which is electrical, which would be killer for like shields and stuff. And with that maxed out to 5, it goes up to a total of 60%, y'all. 60% weapon damage is nuts from everything else. And now we're gonna drop down here. From there, we're gonna go to Synergia. Whenever Rafa deals ordnance damage, he also deals increased gun damage and melee damage. This effect stacks. So when this is maxed out, you get a total of 6 gun damage per stack and 12 melee damage per stack. It is a duration of 8 seconds. So basically, and this doesn't have a stack max. So this is basically just gonna keep proccing all the time if I can cause ordnance damage, which is what we're gonna be doing. We're gonna be dropping grenades, and we're gonna have something else that causes fire ordnance damage. I'll show y'all that in a second. But before we do that, we're gonna go to Booming Business. Whenever Rafa critically hits an enemy, he gains a chance to spawn a free grenade. If this skill works the way I think it does, your grenade chance will go up to at least 100% or at least 90%. Your cooldown time should also go down. From what I saw, the cooldown time and the grenade chance are affected by upgrading. So I think the cooldown time can go down to at least 4 seconds. I'm not sure, but 2 seconds is probably around there. And then a grenade chance goes up to about 90% chance, 100% chance, which is what I'm thinking, which would cause the grenades to drop all the time whenever you proc critical hits, which is what you're gonna be getting every 3rd hit with dial in, or every 5th hit with dial in, you're gonna be getting a critical hit. So it's basically every time you slash someone like 4 or 5 times, you're dropping a grenade, which is awesome. Then we're gonna go down to here. This is actually our bread and butter skill. This is what's gonna cause all the grenades and damage and splash damage to constantly and infinitely proc all over the field. So this is what I'm hoping on. And this is our last skill point for this tree in the second tree. El Diablito. A portion of all fire damage Rafa deals also deals bonus fire ordnance damage. Okay, so hear me out on this. The only reason I put 1 in here is because the only reason I need this is so I can constantly get Synergia going. So with these two, the fire ordnance damage is gonna constantly proc everything. So if I have a fire grenade and it's just constantly dropping every time I melee, this thing is just gonna constantly go off, which is gonna constantly get this off. And then on top of that, if I have, like, say for instance, I think that works with like barrels too. If I hit a person with a fire barrel, it also causes ordnance damage, but we'll have to see. I don't know. But this is basically for my grenades, because I'm gonna have a fire grenade, you're gonna have a fire-based grenade, and you're gonna drop fire-based grenades 24/7 basically. So this is gonna proc 24/7, which is mean that Synergy is just gonna constantly keep procking every time you drop a grenade, which is always great. And you're just gonna keep getting stronger over time, and with your action skill lasting so long, it's gonna be super easy. And with every kill, you're gonna be getting your action skill back anyway. So awesome. And then for our last few skill points, it's going to be Alparagus. Rafa gains increased splash damage and increased splash damage critical hit chance. So the reason this is only at 4 is because, well, you don't have enough skill points. And if you want to take 1 skill point away from Saldair, which is perfectly fine, because as I said, there's a lot of ways to heal. You'll probably have things that will heal you over time. Also, with the weapon skills and everything else that's going on, you can take this off and put that 1 skill point over here if you wanted to, honestly. But for right now, I'm gonna put it like this. This is basically gonna make it so you get more splash damage and you get increased splash damage critical hit chance. Your critical hit chance jumps up by 15. So now we're at the point where now your grenades are gonna do more, are gonna have a chance to crit more, which means if your grenades crit, they're gonna drop another grenade. Because whenever Rafa crits, he drops a grenade. It doesn't matter from what he's doing, as long as it's Rafa critical hitting somebody and it's his weapon, he spawns a grenade. So with this, every time you hit someone with splash damage and it crits them, which is what we're basing it off of Galvanic Panic, because every time we melee somebody, we're going to be causing a splash damage thing to happen of corrosive damage. And with that, this thing is going to constantly proc grenades to go off. It's going to constantly proc grenades to go off. And then with this, constantly procking grenades, this is going to constantly proc you to get stronger with your guns and your melee, which is going to cause you to kill things faster, which is going to keep this up basically, which is going to constantly restore your action skill duration, and it restores it by 10% per kill. So if you're just going around exploding 5-6 people at one time, that's 60% of your action skill back easy. Like this bit, Rafa's gonna be so much fun. So to get y'all a real big rundown on it, I wrote notes, because that's pretty much the whole basis of the build. So you get like a fish slap or something, or like the what's it called in Borderlands 4, the swordfish, and it's in a fire base. So I hope it comes in elements, because if it does, that would make this even better, because then you can get a fire swordfish, and with that constantly have swordfishes proccing and dropping on enemies, causing melee damage and fire damage, which would also proc you to have corrosive damage happening to everything. And he's just gonna be a fire corrosive monster. And he has that shock slash, so shields will be no problem, because you can also slash through people's shields with shock-based attacks. So here's the whole rundown on the build, just so I can give it to y'all in a more written perspective. Shock melee grenade, corrosive and fire build. This build will allow you to have infinite frag grenades spawn on enemies who have been hit by melee critical hits, or a splash critical hit, or a critical hit in general, depending on what Gearbox does to the grenade skill cooldown rate, which will activate every 2 seconds. Dash attack will also do shock damage. You will have movement speed above 200%, and corrosive damage will continue to increase based on how long you are in action skill. Action skill will have increased duration, and will, with every kill, while arc knives are active, will restore 10% duration, including grenade kills. Can restore 30% of maximum health with each kill, and with every melee critical hit, you restore 5% of your maximum health, while constantly activating augments due to health restoration skill that stays active as long as you have overdrive, which can easily increase corrosive damage up to 300% and beyond. Movement speed will go up to 250% plus an extra 25% for a total of 275% movement speed, which means Rafa's going to be moving on this field, bro. He is going to be moving. If your gun or grenade does fire damage, will cause you to do fire ordnance damage and gain infinite stacks of increased melee and gun damage. It's a run and melee build that will drop grenades and constantly increase movement speed and damage as long as the action skill is active, while also being able to restore 10% of your action skill duration for every kill, and causes corrosive splash damage with every melee attack with Capstone. Also, you get a constant damage output increasing if grenades or knives are doing fire or corrosive splash damage. It's a great survivability tree. I actually hope y'all have fun with it. And this is going to be the build I will be using for my Borderlands 4 first campaign. I will be streaming it with a couple of friends of mine, so hopefully y'all can go check that out when it comes out. I can't wait for this game, you guys. But this was my Corrosive Hellfire Blitz, Rafa. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I hope y'all can show me your builds, and if you have any builds, put them down in the comments. I would really like to see some of y'all's creations and what you guys are wanting to play Borderlands 4 like when it comes out. But if you really enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, and I'll see y'all later.